As the president faces the prospect of abandoning large-scale plans for a physical border wall to end the shutdown, aides and allies have tried to downplay Trump's signature campaign issue. They're trying. In his exit interview with the LA Times, Chief of Staff John Kelly said, to be honest, it's not a wall. The president still says wall. Oftentimes, frankly, he'll say barrier or fencing. Now he's tended toward steel slats. But we left a solid concrete wall early on in the administration. Trump pushed back on that, but others also suggested the wall was merely symbolic.
First of all, let's not all acquiesce to the ridiculous soundbite that this is about a wall. They're trying to make a wall a four-letter word when the president's been talking about border security all along.
The wall has become a metaphor for border security. And what we're talking about is a physical barrier where it makes sense.
I'm going to try not to acquiesce to quick sound bites. However, the president has made it clear, with his own words, over and over again, during his campaign, he wasn't talking about the idea of a wall. He was talking about an actual wall.
I will build a great, great wall.
There's a very serious wall.
They say, you don't really mean you're going to build a wall, do you? You're kidding, right?
You know, I built 90-story buildings.
92 stories, 98 stories. Walls are so easy.
Building buildings is tough. Building a wall, boy, is that easy.
That'll go up like magic. It'll go up like magic.
What are the walls going to be made out of?
I'll tell you what it's going to be made of. It's going to be made of hardened concrete. Did you ever see precast plank for parking garages?
It's concrete plank. It's precast.
Concrete plank. You have to be kidding. I can just see it now. Beautiful precast plank. Oh, beautiful.
Plank that's laid like for highways.
It comes 30 feet long, 40 feet long, 50 feet long, 90 feet long. You know how long 90 feet? If you're 90 feet up, you don't want to come down. You want to come down very gently.
It's so easy. Oh, I can just see that beautiful precast plank.
And you put that plank up and you dig your footings.
Boom. Good solid foundations. Precast. Pshoo.
Sucked right into a foundation. Beautiful. Boom. Boom. It's easy. Precast plank, being, boom. Precast, boom, being, done, keep going. And you put that plank up, there's no ladder going over that. Nice and high, make this ceiling look like a little low ceiling.
The taller it gets, the safer it gets.
A real wall, not a little toy wall that's 10 feet tall, and it's a fence. See the way they go over our little fences? It's not a wall, it's a little fence.
People don't go over my wall.
I want it to be so beautiful, because maybe someday they're going to call it the Trump wall. We're talking about a Trump wall. It's not a fence, it's a wall.
Okay, I don't know how he gets around that. And Mike Barnicle, Republicans are trying to help him around it by saying it's a metaphor and then he just walks it back and says, no, it's a wall. There's that and this. You know John Kelly, you know Mattis. These guys are leaving. And I guess my question is for you. What do you think your friends' responsibility is as they leave this White House to talk about what they've seen in there in very real terms, especially as this all unfolds with the Democrats taking power, questions about the shutdown and how that is being held, and also other questions surrounding this president?
Well, I think that General Kelly has already spoken out to some extent with Molly O'Toole in the LA Times.
A little bit.
General Mattis has sort of spoken out very strongly in his resignation letter to the president, but I don't think they're going to be on Sunday talk shows. Neither man is like that, so I don't think you can look forward to that. I think what we can look forward, though, to, Mika, is despite all the wall talk that we've heard here this morning, all the inside baseball surrounding the wall, whether it's going to be constructed or not, there's something else going out there that Americans can identify with more than just the wall, and it is this. The Democrats tomorrow are going to pass a series of bills, as Jim Vandehei, you pointed out earlier, to fund the government and to set aside Homeland Security funding until the middle of February or so. They, in essence, are going to go to work. They're going to do their job. They are confronted with another political party, the Republican Party, that can't do their job because their titular leader, the President of the United States, won't do his job. So it comes down to a level of incompetence on the Republican side that I think a lot of Americans are beginning to recognize. I don't know about you, Eddie, but I mean the frustration about people who see this mess in Washington continuing on an hourly basis. It's pretty frustrating. It's going to have a huge impact on the presidential election that begins now.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's not only incompetence, though, Mike. I think we've been talking about the Democratic Party, Nancy Pelosi assuming the speakership and them pursuing, and the party pursuing its agenda. But there's also Kevin McCarthy. There's also Trump's base. We know that over the last 2 years, Trump has basically governed to the 40%, that 39%, those folks that will follow him no matter what he does, right? And those are the people who were clamoring for him to double down on the immigration policy, the folks who were clamoring for him to double down on the wall. So it would be really interesting. He's not only, it's like a pincer move. He's not only caught by the Democrats, he's also caught by his base, because if he backs down on this issue, conservative talk radio, Fox News, all of these folk who have been pushing him will be up in arms if he backs away.
You know, Mika, one interesting aspect of the wall that we've been talking about, it's nearly 3 years to the day that we were all in Iowa at Java Joe's doing the show, and then candidate Donald Trump was going to be on with us that morning, and he was indeed on with us that morning. He arrived a little late. I was back in the kitchen, where I prefer to hide out rather than being on the set. Trump came in, and he had a rally the night before, I think in Ames, Iowa, or one of the Iowa towns, and there was a very small crowd, according to the news reports, and I asked him in the kitchen, I said, Jesus, I said, I guess you had a pretty small crowd there last night. How did it go? And he said, you know, he said, it doesn't matter about the crowd. He said, because if the crowd is depressed, if there's no noise, he says, if they're not wildly into it, he says, all I have to do is mention the wall and they go crazy. And he's been doing it ever since.
Well, it worked for the campaign, or for the nomination, really. But the question is how to get out of this box now. And Mike, someone else we know, and we're going to dig into this more later, but I'd like to bring it up now because it kind of paints the picture of how this president is really kind of starting the new year, up against Nancy Pelosi, up against Democrats when it comes to the wall, with a Republican Party that is increasingly frustrated that he keeps sticking and desperately holding to this wall while we have a government shutdown.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.